Still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications options. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us red. What's that you said coming over you? You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you,
good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters Talk of the Toon with me and Sid from Songs from the Attic. How are you, Sid?
Very good, mate. Yourself?
Very good, mate. Good to see you. And as always, a bit of football and a little bit of music on this show tonight. So let's talk about the match that we just witnessed at the weekend. Newcastle United took on Ipswich Town. A 3-0 win, mate. What did you make of it?
Yeah, hello to everybody out there. It was... yeah, it was all right. it was a strange one. It was almost boring at parts. It sounds stupid because we won 3-0, but it was just a strange game. The game didn't get going until about after 30 minutes. The referee just literally stopped any form of play from going on just due to his actions in terms of blowing the whistle constantly or his poor refereeing. And I just thought it upset the balance of play for both teams. And it was just start and very bitty, and it was just it was really frustrating. I think it was frustrating for the fans, it was frustrating for the players, and obviously up to the red card as well. Of course, it was just. I thought we'd hammer them. I genuinely thought we'd hammer them, which is what I went with my 7-1. So please don't bother listening to my score predictions in future, folks. But I went, I genuinely thought we'd turn up and turn them over. I thought. When I saw the team list and saw Big Joe was out, I didn't think it was that big a deal because it's Ipswich. I know it sounds a bit condescending towards them, but I thought Joe Willett would come in and put a performance. I thought it should be all right, but it was just very lackluster. I thought we were a bit slow at times. I thought the defence was really poor the first half. I thought the two centre-halves were really poor. I think against somebody with a bit of pace and a little bit more guile, I think we could have been 1 or 2 down. And they had no real shots at goal either, because they didn't have people who looked like they could pour it away. I mean, I paid particular attention to watch Liam Delap, and I didn't think very much of him, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Me too.
I just thought, well, Is he any better than Evan Ferguson from a few years ago, who I genuinely thought was a very, very good footballer and who's just a young kid and got a dip in form, and I think will come back and prove people wrong. I think he was a very good player. And I don't think he's any different. Don't get me wrong, his figures of 12 goals in a really bottom team is very impressive. So he's obviously got something about him. And, you know, he could well prove me wrong and say, oh, he's fabulous and bangs in 25 goals next year. But from what I saw on Saturday, I wasn't impressed. And he doesn't particularly seem to be lightning quick. He's great at holding the ball up, but he was a bit, you know, he should have got booked for, well, he did get booked, I suppose, for the Dan Burn thing. But if Newcastle was canny about it and actually whipped across him when he was doing it, they'd have got a penalty. I didn't see much from him, you know, and I just thought, It was just a very sort of bitty first half, and as I say, there was nothing that made me go, well, that's brilliant. And then obviously the red card came in, and it was a red card. You know, he dived for the Dan Bird thing and stupidly held on to Isak. I thought that was just silly. I thought beforehand the Bruno goal should have absolutely stood all day long. From where we sit in this stand, it was clear that it was a goal, and the keeper just fell over, and then. I didn't, obviously, I had to wait until I got home to watch it again. Sobered up anyway and watched it again. And then, and it was definitely a goal. And much of the day didn't even go into it. They didn't even discuss whether they thought it was a goal or not. And I know Sky did this morning, and both pundits said they thought it was a goal. Of course, the referee said it was a foul, which was just farcical. And again, that comes back to the idea that many of the referees have never played to even a half decent standard of football, you know. And again, it comes back to my big bugbear of the quality of referee in this country is abysmal, largely due to the fact that so many people are bullied as referees. So we're left with some absolute dross to come through and referee games. And I thought this guy had an appalling game the other day. I genuinely thought he was rubbish.
Worst officials, I would say, and this is going some, by the way. I think that's the worst officials we've had this season as a collective, as a three.
We've had some dross this year. Yeah, we've had some good ones as well. So let's give credit. Well, it's due at times. We've had some decent ones, but this was terrible. I thought they were just awful. Yeah, it really spoiled the game though. The first half in particular. I mean, it was for both sides. It wasn't just for us. It was for Ipswich Town as well. You know, a big shout out for their fans who were excellent, I have to say. You know, they sold their area out and they were very loud and vociferous and that. And it was nice to hear them, you know. They were lovely people as well. So good luck to those. But it was just strange. And then the second half, we absolutely battered them and it could have been 10. Can I also say, with regards to the first half, Murphy must have put about 10 balls into the 6-yard line, and they were brilliant. He just kept whipping ball after ball into the box, and nobody was there to sort of knock it in. Yeah. I mean, I think a Les Ferdinand, Alan Shearer, one of those types of strikers, go back Malcolm MacDonald, one of those would have had a hatful on Saturday. They would have had a hatful. I know the people say he's actually not that sort of forward, and he's got a lot about him. Obviously, he's brilliant. But you've got to be able to go in and attack the front post.
He's carrying a knock. There's no excuse. I think it's a knock. I think we're having to manage him.
Because he's going off in 70 minutes as well, isn't he?
And there's no trust. There's no trust in those on the bench. There's, you know, Wilson is not the man he was before the injury, and he doesn't trust Asula to play 90 minutes or to start in the big games, I guess. So I think that's half the problem. If it had been me, and look, I will always bow to Eddie's better knowledge. He's the man who gets paid. He's the man who makes the decisions. But as a fan, I'm allowed an opinion. Ipswich might have been that game to start Asula and say, this is your big chance. We know Alexander Isak's carrying a knock. Stick him on the bench. We can bring him on if things aren't working out. But we went the other way, and unfortunately, Isak's suffering for it, you know.
Yeah, I thought he had a terrible. I know he's Scorebury. I thought he had a terrible game on Saturday. I really did. Yeah, it was a pen. I just thought he just didn't play well. Then there were some really good performances. Trippier, although Trippier must have been pleased that Clark was taken off because he sort of did him first of all, and then he was taken off. So he did it for pace, and he was taken off, and he must have been rubbing his hands after that because he had an outstanding game after that. But for me, man of the match was Murphy. I thought he was brilliant. And they took him off after about 65 minutes. As I say, I think he whipped in 15 deliveries. Barnes was really good, whipped in 3 or 4 cracking balls. In fact, he got through and I thought, there we go. And it went over the bar. And I stood up and I was about to go. And I couldn't believe he knocked the ball over the bar. He's such a good finisher. I was quite taken aback by it. But I thought he had a good game. I thought we were very, very good. We were very professional. We did a job on them. As I say, there were some terrific performances. But it was just, we didn't feel like we had to get into third gear. They were not very good at all. And they seemed to be determined just to kick lumps out of some of our players.
But poor Joe Willock didn't have time to get involved in the game. I've seen criticism of Joe Willock. The poor bugger got kicked from pillar to post. It was almost as they said, they'd come with a game plan to kick Joe Linton. He wasn't there, so they just kicked the person who replaced him, which was unfair, really. And I don't think Willock had time to settle.
I think he had a poor game, I have to say. He's really just got to step up for me. And I'm a fan of Joe Willock, but he's not been the same player, that all power, all action, going forward sort of player. And you and I talked before, I think he's a number 10. I think he's a goal-scoring attacker. I don't see him as a midfielder, box-to-box guy. I just don't think...
Well, he's never going to fit in that 4-3-3 then, is he?
He's not. No, he's not. He's not.
So that's up to Eddie Howe, in my mind, to change the formation to suit the players. I would argue that would be the same for Wilson. And I know Wilson's not the same Wilson as he was 12 months ago. However, if you play to Wilson's strengths, which is he's a fox in the box, so you get people getting to the byline and crossing the ball in, not ideally at feet level, not at head level.
Ironically, he didn't have a single cross, did he, when he came on? So they took the 2 guys who were whipping great balls in, took them off. There wasn't a single cross for him. So you've got to feel a bit sorry for him, because he's not able to demonstrate his strengths. And his strength is, as you say, fox in the box. He's produced some outstanding finishes in his time. But as I say, I think the phrase might be in his time. But yeah, it was, as I say, I mean, Tonali there was a foul on Tonali that was a red card for me all day long.
Absolute disgrace, that.
Wasn't it? It was a shocker. I mean, Tonali, you might be a tad dramatic at times, but he got smashed in the face, and we were thinking that's a red card all day. Wasn't even looked at. So yeah, it was. Yeah, I was expecting the ref to be absolutely booed off the park at half time, and he wasn't.
Most people have gone to the bar.
I think it's because we got that late goal. Second half, we just battered them, and we could have had loads. We could have had loads more, to be perfectly honest. And I just don't think we had to get out of gear. I thought, as I say, there's some good performances. I thought Bruno was much better. I thought he had a really good game. Trippier was excellent. I saw Murphy was brilliant. Barnes was really good. So, going forward, we're very good. Livramento was really excellent, isn't he? He looks better as a left back. I hate to say it, he really does. And then the centre halves looked much better second half. Big Dan Burns scoring that goal. I would like to see him do it more often and impose himself and be prepared, as he did, to knock one of our players into the goal if he has to score and show that hunger, because he's got it in him, Yeah, and it was a really good goal.
You touched on it earlier. I mean, Delap, there's a £30 million release clause there, but I don't know whether he would fit into Newcastle's way of thinking. My go-to forward's always been Jonathan David. I feel that Jonathan David would fit our team quite nicely. And
mine is Matata. Is it Matata? Is that what?
Yeah.
I think he's fabulous. I think he's got a lot about him. I don't know how old he is, by the way, but I think he's a proper centre forward. He can hold the ball up really well. He's pretty quick. He's good in the air. He's just got everything about him to be a top player. And obviously, he goes in big runs of scoring goals as well. I think he would be my choice personally. I suggest he probably cost a lot of money. But I know Man United are looking at him as well, aren't they? But I think he's fabulous. He would be my choice. He would definitely be my choice. He's just got a bit more about him. And it's all well and good bringing a player and going, he's Project Eddie can bring him on. And of course he can. But I think there's better out. I think there's better out there.
And obviously Miley came on as a sub. I mean, for me, you know, Miley's, you know, he's cutting a frustrated figure at the moment because he's not getting much game time. You know, he's come from having that season of, you know, enforced play. You know, then he had the injury. But when he does come on, he's got that, you know, maturity about him now. He's got the physicality. He's a very good player, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got a lovely touch. The one he reminds me of, he's not the same player, of course, is Toon in terms of his touch. You know, he's able to control it very quickly and he moves it very quickly. And he always knocks the ball with a little bit of sort of power on it, a little bit of topspin, so it's always going quickly. He never sort of just, you know, dithers the ball. He doesn't just sort of tap it slowly. He's always got a bit of pace to it. He's a very, very silky footballer. He's got a big future, in my opinion. And, of course, it's clear as day now, isn't it, that Sean Longstaff's days are very much numbered. And, you know, well done to Sean for his time being here. But the fact that the others are ahead of him now tells you all you need to know. And I suspect he'll be gone in the summer.
Is he a more natural replacement for Joe Linton? While he's, you know, I mean, there's rumours, and I mean, it may well have been confirmed, you know, by the time this goes out on Tuesday. There's rumours, and I insisted, you know, on Monday, the 28th of April, when we're recording this, it is rumours. If it is confirmed that he's out, is he? Would you not say he was more of a natural replacement than Willock is?
Yeah, I would. And what I would do is I would change the system if that's the case, and you'd maybe have like, I hate these phrases, double pivot. You might do the double pivot thing, and I know he does it with Bruno a little bit, but Bruno's nearly always much further forward now, and have him as more the holder along with Tonali, and just let the others go further forward. That's the way I would play it. But hey, you know, I ain't a football manager, but I just think I think you might get a little bit more out of him, you know. But the kid can score as well, as we've seen before. He's definitely got the whole round game about him. He just doesn't have the pace. He's a bit one-paced, isn't he? You know, when you've got Tonali, who's like a whippet next to him. Mind you, he's still quicker than Bruno.
So obviously the results at the weekend, you know, put us back in third place, and you know, you look from Wednesday onwards, Arsenal 2, Crystal Palace 2, and then we had Chelsea 1, Everton 0. Very lucky. Chelsea carrying the luck on the Chelsea at the moment.
Yeah. I had it down as a draw. Well, I sent in my little image of what I did the points total for the end of the season, and I was mega conservative regarding Newcastle, and I still got what to qualify for Champions League, but outdoing Villa on goal difference. So I was like super conservative with regards to the scores, and I thought Chelsea would only get a draw against Everton. I think Everton are a good team, and I think when we play them, they'll probably be on the beach at that point of the year, hopefully, but. Yeah, I was disappointed in that one. But they've also got Liverpool. Now, Liverpool, ironically, of course, have just won the league. So, again, will Liverpool have the cigars out and the flip-flops on? Or will they... This is the problem, isn't it? Or will they go out and sort of put a marker down and just sort of, you know, hammer home their domination of the league? Of course, the big game that they've got is Forest, last game of the season. And I think Champions League will go to the last game of the season for at least.
No, Sid. No.
I do. I think it'll go. Maybe it's not for us, and I'm hoping not for us. I think we need 68 points, and we'll get Champions League with that.
I think with the results that go our way, which I think they will. I think we beat Chelsea. We get a point at Brighton. We'll beat Chelsea. I think mathematically we might not be there, but we'll be there. We'll probably not be able to finish any lower than 5th. Obviously, there's a lot of permutations have to happen, but I think we need to get a point at Brighton, which we'll look at the second half of the programme.
But Forest are the ones I think they'll definitely get it. I think Forest will stay where they are. I do.
Well, Man City will get it. There's no Man City at this moment in time are doing exactly what Man City do, which is put a run together at the back end of the season to usually win the Premier League. This time it's to get European qualification in the Champions League. So that they've done that. They've also got into the FA Cup final. So they are on the crest of a wave. Their players are coming back. Everybody apart from Rodri, they've got De Bruyne firing and all.
Well, Rodri might be back for the last couple of games apparently.
Well, there you go. So they've got everybody back, and they are firing on all cylinders, and they are used to these kind of scenarios. Chelsea's the one I think will probably dip out. I'd love to see Forest get in at 100%.
Yeah,
and of course,
obviously not at our expense, but yeah.
No, not at our expense. I think as long as we can get a point at Brighton at the weekend. and then beat Chelsea at home. I think we're more or less beat done and dusted. Bearing in mind it's down to 5th place.
I think we're guaranteed now 6th place. I think now we're guaranteed 6th. I just don't see us not being at least 6th. So it's now whether we can go into 5 and 4 or 3 even. But I think we're guaranteed 6. I really do. I think that's absolutely nailed on. So at least Europa League, in my opinion. But obviously, we all want Champions League because I actually, funny enough, I think Champions League will push us on maybe by a couple of years financially in terms of what it has to do. Because if we get Champions League, the Premier League can't really turn Newcastle down if they go, right, well, we've got a team who've now qualified 2 out of 3 years for the Champions League. We are therefore entitled to go and have the same deals that other clubs like Man United, maybe who let's say they win this other competition, they'll have only been in the Champions League twice, maybe even just once at that point out of 3 years. Or Spurs, who maybe will only be in once. So therefore we should be at least entitled to the same level deals that they're entitled to. Otherwise, the Premier League, I'm going to like to stand. And if that were the case, if we're talking about equality amongst the clubs, it should be there, and our intake, financial income is going up as well. So, and obviously the club know that. And I think all of a sudden you'll get all the sponsorship deals suddenly come flying in. And I think they just wait to see where we are at the end of the season.
Obviously, business was done at the weekend. Liverpool, you've already mentioned, they are the Premier League champions for this season. I mean, well deserved. I think you've got to give credit, obviously, to the players. They're the ones who have to go out across the white line and do the business. But credit to the manager. I think he's come in. It was a hard act to follow, Klopp, but he's done a great job.
Done a terrific job. They play really nice football. Got some really good players. But and well done to Liverpool, I have to say, even though it sticks in me craw a little bit. But well done to them. I have to keep saying the fans were fantastic after the cup final. And they really were. But I want us to be challenging them next year because I think there'll be 3, 4, maybe even 5 teams going for the title next year. I think it'll be literally Liverpool, Man City, of course, because they'll spend massive in the summer, in my opinion. And I think the whole thing will go their way. I really do. The whole claims thing. There'll be us. I think Aston Villa will spend big, irrespective of the situation they're in. Even though they have to sell, they'll somehow find a way. And another, And I don't think it'll be Manchester United anytime soon. Spurs, my God, what's happened to them? So I think there'll definitely be 4 of us, but I think there'll be 5. I think there will be another club again who'll probably come forward at the end of the season as well for next year. So yeah, I think there'll be some big spending in the summer. Arsenal, of course. So there'll be some big money spent in the summer, and it'll be interesting to see who, where, and how. As long as it's not like our big players. I mean, again, reading the whole Isaac, 100 million should do it. I was reading that again. I'm thinking, wait, man, give your head a shake. That's not going to happen. That's really not going to happen. And I don't see Tonali going anytime soon. They're the 2 players that, for me, we have to keep hold of. I think other players have got a year or 2. Other players have got loads more years. I mean, Big Joe will be an interesting one in a year's time. Because he's picking up a number of knocks now, and he may have 1 more year. He might have, I hope, longer because he's my favourite player at the club. But he may have 1. It all depends on injuries and all the rest of it. There are some who are going to be on that point where Newcastle have to be a little bit ruthless at sometimes.
I was going to say that. I've had this conversation today, Sid, right? And we've got to look now. This is going to be the next obstacle for probably fans of our age group to get over, because we lived through the sales of Gascoigne, Waddle and Beardsley. Yeah. We're now going to have to get used to the fact that we're going to have to sell a big name player at some point, So a Joe Linton or a Bruno or a Gordon or a Willock may have to leave the club. Yeah. Not necessarily this summer, but in future transfer windows to either... we might not think that person's ready to go, but we've got to trust Eddie Howe, Tyndall, Graham Jones, Mitchell. We've got to trust their opinions. Medical staff, we've got to trust their opinions. And we've got to realise that we're going to be bringing in better. You know, we've got to get into that mindset that selling a big name player isn't the end of the world.
No, I absolutely get that. And I always go back to Bob Paisley, who would sell players when they think they were still top draw, and he would bring somebody else in who would take their place and would be better players, you know. And he did it year after year, you know, and, you know, the likes of, you know, Jimmy Case would go, and all of a sudden he'd bring Graham Souness in. That's that sort of thing. I might be wrong on the player.
The two most successful teams in our lifetime,
you know what I mean?
Liverpool and Manchester United, both refreshed, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're also in the really positive area of, I think in the next 2 or 3 years, there's going to be a number of young kids coming through as well. It looks like we've bought really well among some of the young'uns. And that's really quite exciting as well to see who's going to come through. And some of them, and I always say to the fans, don't get attached to them, because some of them will be sold. You know, there'll be a number of them sold like Chelsea do, or like Man City have done. I mean, you don't want to sell someone like a Cole Palmer, but it probably will happen somewhere down the line, and we'll be kicking ourselves. But you just have to get used to it. You just have to get used to it. But if Newcastle can portray themselves a little bit as well for the younger players, like Borussia Dortmund, for example, who bring young kids through as well and show them as a pathway to getting into the first team, then I don't think that's a terrible thing either. And blend that youth and, you know, and experience along the line. So, yeah. Exciting times. It really is. But we have to be ruthless. And there are some players, and it'll stick in our craw when you see the odd one go. But there are two I don't want to go, and that's Tonali and that's Isak. Yes, it might hurt a little bit to see some of the others go, but I'm prepared for it, I think is the phrase. You know.
I made the point as well on one of the shows last week about the goalkeeping situation, and I wouldn't be frustrated if we were in for bigger names in other positions. I would be quite happy to go with the same goalkeepers again next season, you know, before the Christmas transfer window. If it meant that we could spend a little bit more on bringing the right centre forward in and the right winger and the right defender that we need, and they said, look, we're going to go for these, we're going to hold back on the goalkeeping situation for now, I would do that, because I still think we could get at least another season, because, you know, Dubravka's signed on, Pope's signed on. They're not bad keepers. They're not the best keepers in the world, but they're not the worst keepers by far. So for me, I wouldn't be adverse to doing that and going with the goalkeeping staff that we've got again for the next season. That would be my philosophy. If it meant that it gave us an extra 30 million to go and spend on a different centre half or a centre forward or a right winger. Because for me, those are the positions we really need to strengthen, and especially going into European football next year. We cannot go into European football next year relying on Alexander Isak, who is constantly, you know, being wrapped in cotton wool when really, you know, we should be rotating somebody as good as that.
So yeah, I'm going to be controversial here. I think the most important buy in the summer is a goalkeeper.
Wow.
You know,
see, I don't. It's mad, isn't it? Opinions. It is mad. And yet this is me who 2 years ago was saying you build from the back, you need a goalkeeper. You know, for me, you need a Peter Schmeichel. 100% you do. But when I look at what we've got at the moment, and I look at the team we've got at the minute, I think.
I mean, everyone knows we need a right winger and a centre half. But for me, you build from the back. All the great teams have had great goalkeepers, whether it's Clements, even Grobbelaar was fantastic. You know, Peter Shilton won the title with Forest and was unbelievable. I mean, in those days, Clough said he saved 16 points a season, and that was during the old 2 points a game era. And it's true. And then, of course, you go further on. You know, you've got the likes of Neville Southall was the best keeper in the world for a while. You had, you know, you've obviously got Schmeichel. You know, you can name them all off, the Arsenal keeper, Seaman, and so on. You don't win the league without a great goalkeeper. And at the minute, you've got Alisson and you've got Edison, who are the best two keepers in the league. And they're both Brazilian, which is amazing when you look at some of the rubbish they had in the past with like Taffarel and all those lot. And they've got, you know, they've got the two best keepers in the league have won the league in the last few years, and it's not a coincidence. You've got to have a top draw goalkeeper, in my opinion. And that's what I would do. And I know people might go, oh, but we need a right. Yeah, of course we do need a right way. I'm not going to deny it. And we do need a centre half. Absolutely. Now, I'm the first person week in, week out goes bangs on about pace and centre halves. But for me, I would always go goalkeeper first. Always. You know, but that's...
I'd love to find a Schmeichel. I asked Magnus on the fans forum on Monday, was there any Icelandic keepers out there? Because I've just finished the Schmeichel documentary, which is on Sky Documentaries at the minute. And you know what? Forget what a keeper he was. He was
incredible. He's probably... Isn't he the best shot stopper I've seen? I'm not sure, because I also know Bruce Grobbelaar was an incredible shot stopper. But he's right up there, and Shilton was as well. He's certainly right up there. He wasn't great with his feet. So I'm not sure how he's doing today, because it's all changed, doesn't it? Ironically, Pav would be an incredible goalkeeper now, you know, because he was magnificent with his feet. But he was exceptional, and let's be honest, he won. You know, he was best goalkeeper in the world for 4 or 5 years. He was incredible. You know, obviously the Italians had an incredible keeper as well. But yeah, I think and of course, Man U had 2 great goalkeepers. Won the titles with Edwin van der Sar was magnificent as well, and he had a great all-round game, great shot stopper, great with his feet, everything. You know, superb. Chelsea had great keepers. So you've got to have a great keeper, not just a good keeper, a great keeper. And Liverpool have got one at the moment. They've got another one coming in who's not very good with his feet, but an incredible shot stopper.
Yeah.
And personally, I think Alisson's a better goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Mamadashvili, who's excellent, great shot stopper, really is. He might improve with his feet, but we've looked at Nick Pope and he hasn't improved with his feet in the 2 or 3 years he's been here. He's without a doubt the best shot stopper I've seen at the club, though. Without a doubt, the best. I've seen at the club.
I was going to say you pulled yourself back there, because SJP Dave, who will definitely be in the chat, who is the leader of the Nick Pope fan club, will not be happy with your comments about.
Well, if you remember rightly, I picked him in my all-time Newcastle 11 ahead of Shea Gibbons because I said his shot stopping's brilliant and he comes off his line. You know.
Yeah.
He's got all that going for him, but he's just kicking is atrocious. You know, it's not quite Tim Krul standard, but it's terrible.
Yeah. Okay, we're not going to have the ad break halfway through the show today. We're going to have it at the end. We've got no Rob this week, but we are still going to look at a little bit of music. So the album that I won't be reviewing today is this one, Brainstorm, Smile a While. Thank you for supplying that, Rob. Thank you.
Those mustaches, brilliant.
Now, the album he was going to review was the David Essex one, which I'll leave for him to review. But I, as always, have been doing my challenge over the last 7 days and listened to some wonderful albums.
Good album, yeah.
And Rain Town was the one that I listened to on Monday, which has got the wonderful Dignity on. Chocolate Girls on there as well, but I liked it, and it went down well with David Cook in the chat because he's a big fan of Deacon Blue and of course a big Dundee band, which is where he hails from.
A bit of trivia here. My mate, who I'm in a duo with, he went and bought a guitar and he went up to Scotland, and it was actually the guy out of Deacon Blue. He goes under a different name when he was selling it. Went into his house, went in, had a cup of coffee with him, was in his music room for an hour, said he couldn't have been nicer, said what a really lovely guy he was. So,
I love it when that happens and people meet people and you know that they are as nice as that you hope they were going to be. Never meet your heroes, sometimes people say, but nice to hear an opposite version of the story. I love this. This has been the album of the week. Pete Doherty and Frederick Lowe, The Fantasy Life of Poetry and Crime. It's just a lovely album. Top 3 tracks for me. I could have picked any of them, but I went for The Glassblower, The Ballad of, and The Epidemiologist, which is a great little track. But that is completely different. Not what you would expect from Pete Doherty. Yeah, definitely well worth a listen if you haven't listened.
What sort of style is it then, Steve?
It's quite jazzy, bit of piano, but I would give it a listen. That'll be right up your street. And it's not very often I can get an album that Sid's not listened to. So give it a listen. It's only 36. It's a 36-minute album or something like that. So it's not very long. It won't take much of your time, but well worth a listen. This was one of your recommendations, I think, Sid, to me. Faces is not as good as a Wink. I recognised a few of the tracks, of course, but I'd never listened to it. And yes, Stay With Me, Debris, and Memphis, Tennessee. When we stand out on this, this one went down well on my social media as well. Everybody seemed to have listened to it.
Oh, it's just amazing.
Yeah, really, really, really good one. The one that upset Sid this week was this album, Morrissey, I Am Not a Dog on a Chain. I'm a big Morrissey fan, but I've got to be perfectly honest, I haven't listened to all of his albums. Probably the last couple of albums I hadn't listened to. This one, I found it quite humorous. Jim Falls. I'm not going to go into what it's about, but dear me, it's a typical Morrissey track. Love Is On Its Way Out. And The Truth About Ruth as well. The thing about Mozza is he likes to be controversial for controversial's sake. That's all I'm saying about that particular album. This one, I hadn't listened to this either. Pulp, This Is Hardcore, The Fear, Help the Aged, and love the long outro at the end too. I like Dishes on this one as well. But all in all, a very good album. Like that a lot. Level 42. Running in the Family was the other one I listened to. Lessons in Love, great track. Running in the Family, of course. And it's over. And I think you all remember I did review Ella Fitzgerald last week. That was a cracking album. Loved that last week. So yes, my albums continue. I listened to David Essex, but as I said, All the Fun of the Fair. That was a suggestion by Stephen Kennedy. But that's going to be the album review the next time Rob's on. So I will leave that for him.
Excellent. Well, I've got a David Essex playlist as one of my playlists now. So I
really?
He's got some great songs. He's got
about 15
absolute bangers. He really does. He's got about 15 great songs.
I like him, but I wouldn't say that's somebody I would listen to on a regular basis.
There you go, folks. Surprising, but it's true. He really does. Absolutely. I'll send you a link for one of the songs. I think it's amazing. So yeah.
All right, man. So you've got yourself an album as usual and a film. So what's the album?
Yeah, so I've gone with one of my favorite debut albums, and it's on my debut show, and it's Magazine. So I've got Real Life. I'll read me notes if you don't mind.
Go for it. So
yeah, it's an absolute cracker. It's released in 1978. It's a really great post-punk album. It sort of mixes like it's got a little bit of punky feel to it, but it's definitely not that. It's much more sort of prog, indie, a little bit of goth. It's got a sort of really wide, sort of diverse style of tastes, but definitely post-punk. As I say, it's got that sort of indie, sort of angular sort of sound, but the keyboards are brilliant on it. Definitely proggy, sort of in like sort of new wave. The musicianship's excellent. Barry Adamson on bass is terrific. And as Rob would tell you, he was a member of the Bad Seeds as well with Nick Cave. So and he was also in Visage. So he had a hell of a varied career, actually. You've got John McGeoch on guitar, who's like the king of post-punk guitarists. He was also in Susie and the Banshees. He was also in Public Image Limited. I mean, what a guitarist. He's one of the greatest guitarists of all time, in my opinion. Dave Formula on keyboards. I don't think that's his real name. And Howard Devoto, of course, who originally was in Buzzcocks.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Spiral Scratch EP, and then left. And I was fortunate enough to see him when he rejoined Buzzcocks for a one-off gig, and he came on at the end of the whole of Spiral Scratch. He was brilliant, actually.
Where was that?
That was at Brixton Academy. So they did a gig called Back to Front. It was really weird. So that current lineup of Buzzcocks with the support band, and they were on for about an hour. They were all right. The sound wasn't that great. But then all of a sudden, the classic lineup came on. The sound was exceptional. You know, yeah, it was like unbelievable sound. The band were fantastic. They did about an hour and a half. And then Howard Devoto came on for the last 4 songs, did the whole of Spiral Scratch. It was an amazing, it was one of the greatest gigs I've ever been to. But yeah, anyway, I digress. So the album's produced by John Leckie, who's one of the great producers as well. It starts off with Definite Gaze. Immediately, it tells you that he's not like Buzzcocks at all. This is something different. It's got this like proggy sort of bass keyboard sound at the beginning. It's just love the sound on it. It's got a bit of a goth feel to it. It's a superb opener. Then you got My Tulpa. It's got a mad key sound. And it's clearly sort of the groundwork for bands like Visage and Midjua's version of Ultravox that would come along. Shot by Both Sides is the big hit on the album, which was co-written with Pete Shelley. Now, what's interesting about that song is Pete Shelley kept it as a Buzzcock song, and they called it Lipstick, and which was a big A-side with Promises, and Magazine just kept it as it is. So when you play them back to back, you can tell that they're virtually the same in big chunks of it. But I think Shot by Both Sides just edges it, if I'm being perfectly honest. And I'm a massive Buzzcocks fan. Recoil has got like a Lust for Life feel, and with the drums, that sounds great. Burst, very gothic. It's got Devoto with some sort of dark style, dark lyrics. It's just brilliant. And then we've got Motorcade, which I think is the best song on the album. It was written by the keyboard player who was very sort of classically trained. And it's got a real sort of kraut rock sound to it. And then it's sort of loads of tempo changes in it. Really rocks along. It's for me, the template to Joy Division's Shadow Play. It's very moody, very atmospheric. Incredible song. But they kicked him out for some reason. I don't know why. So he gets a credit, but he's not even on the album, which is a real shame. The Great Beautician is a great song. It's carnival. It's got a carnival circus type of groove to it. And again, loads of rhythmic changes in it. Honestly, it's a marvelous song. We've then got The Light Pours Out of Me, also again written with Pete Shelley and John McGeoch. This is clearly the template for me for I Am the Resurrection by the Stone Roses, although the Pretenders have probably got a bigger claim to that song. But it's got that sort of intro. It's a brilliant song. And then finally, Parade. It's got like a Lou Reed Berlin album feel to it, like or Bowie Aladdin Sane. It's got this weird, beautiful sort of keyboardy, electric piano sound. Key sound great. It's got a killer groove. What an album that is! It's just a really great, dark, moody album. It's a superb album to put on at night, walking around the streets. It's magnificently produced. And the band are quite an eclectic style, yet you could hear their influences in all the bands that would follow. I would suggest that they're a huge influence on Joy Division, for example. It's a remarkable debut in my opinion. So there's my album. And so I thought I'd stick along the lines of something that's a little bit gothic-y, you know. And Rob might disagree, mind you, when he comes on or watches it. And I've gone with Batman Returns, which I think is a great film from 1992.
It's a classic.
It is a great film, isn't it? You know, you've got Michelle Pfeiffer. What do you want? What more do you want? Michelle Pfeiffer's in a film. You've got Michael Keaton, who's a fantastic Batman, and Danny DeVito is just marvelous as the Penguin.
Not quite as good as the original Penguin and the original Batman.
I get where you're coming from, and I
classic actor.
I love the campy Adam West era Batman. I've got the box set, love it, absolutely love it. But I really like this production as well. I do think it's really well put together, because I wasn't a huge fan of the first Batman film with Jack Nicholson. I just thought it was all right. But Tim Burton was allowed to do what he wanted on this one, and he focused far more on the characterization. So the characters are really developed rather than some sort of stereotype, which I think the Joker was in the first film. And you do feel sorry for the Penguin. You really feel sorry. I mean, Michelle Pfeiffer, in my opinion, is magnificent in this film, actually. I think she's really a really well-rounded character, not just some sort of two-dimensional sort of comic type character in this. She's just done really, really well. So I'll not go into the story. I'll let you watch the whole story. And Catwoman's quite an interesting one, because it reminds me a little bit of the campy era, where I remember there's the episode when they had King Tut, and he got hit on the head, and all of a sudden he turned into King Tut and thought he was an Egyptian king, Egyptian pharaoh. And it's a bit like that with Catwoman in this, isn't she? She's banged in the head and suddenly turned into Catwoman. It's all that, you know, which is a bit silly, but it's great. I just love the production on it. It's very, very dark. He's really built a whole little sort of a whole scene there in terms of like the whole, I'm trying to put the words here. It's just, it's so well produced. It's so cinematic. It's got a real noir feel to it. It's an excellent film. And so she plays Selena Kyle. And of course, he's a great Batman. He was an excellent Batman. It's a shame he didn't do any more, although he did come back in The Flash just a couple of years ago, didn't he, as Batman? Yeah. But if you haven't seen it, folks, go and watch it. This is miles better than the first one, and this is by far for me the best of all of that series as well that were made in the 90s Batmans. The other Batmans that came later on are also superb, by the way. I forgot his name, Christian Bale ones. They're terrific. They're really good. Yeah. But yeah, this is a great film. Go and check it out. It's easy entertainment, but it's actually, you do feel sorry for the characters within it as well, for the antagonists within it, So yeah, great film. So there we go.
Great stuff. Hopefully Rob will be back with us next week for another music review. We're now going to look ahead to the Brighton game, which is, of course, this coming weekend. It is our penultimate trip away from St James's Park. It is on Sunday. It is a 2 o'clock kickoff at the Amex Stadium, live on Sky Sports. All 3,000 away tickets are sold out. Don't forget as well, if you want to forward your ticket, that's available from 2 o'clock on Thursday until 9 o'clock on match day. This will be Newcastle's 8th attempt at winning a Premier League fixture at this venue, having drawn 4 and lost the other 3 of their previous 7 visits. Their only victory in 10 league and cup matches at the Amex came during the 2016-2017 championship season. Brighton are bidding for a treble against Newcastle this season. They, of course, beat Newcastle 1-0 in the Premier League and 2-1 in the FA Cup on Tyneside. Injuries still to Lewis Hall and Jamal Lascelles will rule them out. At the time of putting this programme together on Monday, the 28th of April, there was no news on Joe Linton's knee injury that saw him miss the victory over Ipswich. No news as well on Matt Targett, who wasn't in the squad last Saturday. The rumours that were circulating Tyneside on Monday were that Joe Linton's season could be over. Jason Tindall, he will serve a 1-match ban from the touchline following his 3rd yellow card of the season, which came against Ipswich at the weekend. The only team news we've got this early in the week about Brighton is that João Pedro is still suspended following his straight red card against Brentford. Ahead of our visit, Brighton and Hove Albion were victorious in their win against West Ham by 3-2. That ended a winless run of 5 Premier League games. No news on the referee or VAR this early in the week either. Toughest game for me in the run in this, and people might say, really? Chelsea? Arsenal? But I think this is the toughest game purely because of what lack of results against them in recent years.
Yeah, I'm thinking of that. I'm thinking of the championship winner that we got against them.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I mean,
what was his name again? The goal scorer. It came off his foot and looped over the keeper. It was brilliant. It was one of the funniest goals I've ever seen. It was fantastic. Our record there is abysmal. My best mate Ian's going down, so I'm hoping we do win there this weekend. They're our bogey. They're our Southampton at the moment, aren't they? In terms of what it used to be like going up to Southampton. You just come back with nothing. You could be 2-0 up, and then let's see you come up with 10 minutes and bang 2 in from 30 yards. But I think Pedro being out's a big plus. I really rate him. I think he's a super footballer. And if we got him as a second striker, which we should have done, remember, I would have been delighted. I don't know. Well, on the calculations thing that I did, I put us down for a 2-1 defeat for this game. I was dead conservative because I put us down for a defeat on this and a draw against Chelsea. And I was playing super conservative and we still qualify for Champions League. But I actually think it'll be a draw. I think it'll be a draw. I think we'll get something out of it. We'll not beat them, I don't think. But I think we'll get a draw out of it. Like 2-2, something like that. I think there'll be goals in it.
I think it all depends on which Alexander Isak turns up. Can we get him a bit closer to fitness? Can we get the supply to him? Can he finish the job? I think this is a big game for Alexander Isak. The key to the game for me is not conceding early. If we can go 20 minutes and not concede a goal, and Alexander Isak can get us a sniff and get us in front, I think it changes the whole complexity of the game. But I agree with you. I think it's going to be goals. I think there'll be a few goals in this game. I'm going to go for a 2-2 as well. I do think Newcastle will get a point out of the game, but it's going to be a tough one. This is the toughest one we've got. If we can get a draw down there and then beat Chelsea at home, I think we've got one foot in the Champions League.
I'll beat them both, and I think it's done. I genuinely do. I think my worry is Trippier. They've got such pace going down that wing. They've got such pace, and obviously he's susceptible to it. He's got the guile, though, to maybe sort of counterbalance it, and maybe when Newcastle play further back to balance that off and then hit them on the break. That's maybe the way that we might play. I genuinely don't know.
Yeah.
That's probably the way I would play. But Brighton are a counter-attacking team as well, aren't they? But I mean, when they beat us up here recently in, I think it was November or whenever it was, we should have beaten them that day. I went away really disappointed after that game. And same with the cup game, I couldn't believe that they beat us in that game. I left the stadium thinking, how did we lose that game?
I watched them at the weekend against West Ham, and they're susceptible at the back. You know, and if we're firing on all cylinders up front, Sid, we will get goals against them. We will, but we've got to be putting our chances away.
I'm going for Harvey Barnes because I think he'll bang one or two in. Him or Murphinho. So I'm going for Harvey Barnes to sort of.
It'd be interesting to see why he took Murphy off. I mean, you know, there's rumours that Gordon might not be 100%, and is he carrying a knock? You know, maybe we'll have no choice. But you know, there's some people calling for Miley to be in instead of Willock. So he's got a few decisions to make. And I mean, if we can see that Trippier is susceptible, Eddie Howe can. But you know,
he might go three at the back again now, though. Because we've got three centre halves now with Sven Botman.
Yeah, Botman's back. Yeah, it's a good show.
That's a huge plus. So I genuinely I'm looking forward to and also have a sense of trepidation.
Yeah, I've got you, mate. I've got you. Well, hopefully we'll be live next week. I'm hoping to do an afternoon show next week because I'm into performance week next week. So rehearsals will be done. We'll be performing. So. Probably an afternoon show with you next week, mate. So we'll see you live next week, and hopefully Rob will be back then as well. I'm going to play out the ads, and just for Mark Byers, mate, who enjoys your. Well, we had a message this week about the way you say goodbye. I think it reassures him like a Mike Neville.
Mike Neville, fantastic.
So it's bye bye from me, and it's
bye bye from me. Take care. Bye bye.
Big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickys.co.uk. Email info@mrvickys.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel, UK Coach Holidays. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2 crew, driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. And if you want to listen to us as a podcast, you can find us on Sport Social Podcast Network. We're also available on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If you want to support the channel, then hit the subscribe button. We still do 7 shows a week. Hit the like button, which is the thumb underneath this video, and click share to your social media. You could also take out a monthly membership or an annual membership at nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. For the lifetime membership, you can pay £25 and get a pen, a beer mat, a fridge magnet, a badge and a keyring and your membership card and entry into the monthly draw. Some events coming up, 27th of June, 2025, the end of season party. Beresford, Howie and Watson will be at the Tyneside Irish Centre with Joe Allen, in aid of North Tyneside Age UK. You can get your tickets for that one from nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk or from Voucher. No Covers takes place at the Clooney. That's on the 29th of June, midday till 3:45, and tickets are £10 from theclooney.com or newcastlelegends.com. Northern Horizon, a Blake 7 convention, takes place on the 9th of August, 10 till 4 at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Come and meet some of the cast and crew in aid of Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. Tickets from nufcmatters.co.uk. An Evening with Peter Beardsley and Chris Waddle takes place on Friday the 23rd of January 2026 at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. You can get tickets from the box office 0844 249 1000 or from tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And Bad Manners are back in the Northeast at the O2 City Hall, Friday the 30th of January 2026. Tickets from ticketmaster.co.uk. And we have copies of The Entertainer's book, signed by Les Ferdinand, available from nufcmatters.co.uk.